For the continuation of the story, just to give you a quick overview, I'm going to take you through the text and read out the text and give the visual background to that text, so the graphic inspiration. And then for the second part, for my spaces, I have made animations rather than straight up renderings that I have compiled into a video that I will be showing you as the second part that sort of shows the story from a video narrative. A voluntary lapse in reason. Well, turns out my conscience was wrong. Life actually hit me like a garbage truck slams into the trash cans every Thursday afternoon, which is to say, it hit me repeatedly. Over the course of the week, I guess I started to notice Charlotte a little differently than usual, or really just a lot more. I noticed the way she would unpack the boxes of Grace Jones and Prince records with such delicacy in her fingertips that could only be held by someone who was taught from a young age that vinyl held precious secrets. On the other hand, anything by Boston, Queen's Greatest Hits, or Elton John, she flung across the room, aiming for their respective sorting bins, voluntarily missing once or twice. Conscience, you're smiling again. What is? Shut up, Conscience. Are you catching, the feels? Feelings? Ew. No, it wasn't exactly that, but it was some sort of other infatuation virus I caught, probably from the disproportionate number of times I'd brush up against her and pretending I needed to get something off a shelf above her head. Or maybe I just caught it because of my computer suffered from the newly acquired adult content, where there was a sneaky but definite shift in my taste in women, from poor men's Debbie Harrys and slightly curvier Stevie Nickses to Charlotte lookalikes. The most likely explanation, however, is that I caught it directly from her when she first kissed me. I mean, it wasn't like a real kiss. It was more like a hug that turned into a peck that turned into a kiss sort of thing. By no means a romantic moment. I had just unpacked the new box of records that we bought at someone's funeral sale, which in general is a risky business move anyways, because it's kind of hard to tell just from someone's casket outfit if they're more of a Kinks or a Carpenters kind of person. And when you've had the luck to spend 500 euros on 4 boxes of great American country classics, that's when you have a legitimate reason to go and take a bubble bath with your toaster. No note required. But this particular week was superb, actually. There were a lot of great 60s and 70s classics in good condition, and also a couple of obscure smaller bands trying to break through by performing experimental Simon and Garfunkel covers using their grandfather's Midwestern cowbell collection. But the true treasure of the box was a record of the studio outtakes of Freewheelin' that I could have probably made some good money with, but decided to give to Charlotte instead. When I gave it to her, she started squealing and manically running around the shop, reminiscent of a hamster on Benzedrine. And then, out of the blue, she came up to me and kissed me, and that was that, I guess. In all of its awkwardness, the first kiss marked a turning point. Our lives changed drastically from there. Turns out that finding a Charlotte is that crucial 5th step in the manual for how to plan a career in music. Charlotte was a good singer, a great singer even, but she was a better writer still. She had an affinity for the beautifully banal and a unique way of combining it with humor to make something meaningful happen between the bars. So Charlotte and I started experimenting a little, and before long, we started playing for customers, for passersby, for the possum living in the dumpster, for anyone who would listen, really. We started inviting people into our dingy cellar that doubled as our bedroom. Our fans started bringing friends. To be honest, I didn't think that people who listened to Test Apartment for fun were capable of such a thing as friendship. But jamming in the cellar was fun, and we had the freedom to experiment with our sound, could play the same chorus over and over, fuck up and start again whenever we needed to, or just sit on the floor and write lyrics from the life stories people told us, because why not? People brought food and beer, people laughed and cried, people came because they wanted to or because they had nowhere else to go. There were no rules back then, so every night was a glorious mess with 5 to 50 people in the audience. Whether we wrote a whole album in one night or ended up doing group therapy, trying to comfort Henry, the janitor who had just lost his dog, nobody could know. Nothing could be predicted in advance, and that's what made it work. The long nights and the short days also brought Charlotte and me closer together. If pulling leftover French fries out of each other's butt cracks at 5 a.m. while trying to be intimate at 3 a.m. isn't a bonding moment, I don't know what is. As time went on, we collected more and more of an underground following. At first, they were all Brussels-based, but soon enough, we would have visitors from all over to the store from all over the world. Most of the customers didn't come to sample our amazing collection of rare finds, and soon the only records we really sold anymore were our own. Nobody even cared anymore that I was selling a complete collection of the first release of every Acid Mother's Temple album. I have a very distinct memory of Charlotte coming home one night with a pink latex Burberry coat. She had bought it to wear to our first sold-out show. That's when I realized that we had made it, and it made me want to puke. Yet, the next day I went out and bought myself a vintage velvet Gucci suit. So we climbed the ladder of success slowly but surely. Charlotte seemed to have an easier time with the transition from being basically a professional fan and anthropomorphized geeky subreddit to becoming something of her own. I admired the sophistication with which she slipped her personal experiences in with socio-political concerns, all the while sampling a bit of Indigo Girls here and a bit of St. Vincent there. As we continue to figure out our own interpretation of what electropop means in the 21st century, we incorporated the genius minds from every era and every genre which we had spent our lives admiring. I used to joke that I was the Adam Horowitz to her Kathleen Hanna. But I also saw Charlotte adapt and transition before my eyes, and I was secretly studying the way she metamorphosed from a shop assistant to a starlet. I was struggling to keep up with her. I liked to watch her dancing in the shower, where she hummed to herself, scribbling lyrics in Sharpie onto the wall so as not to forget. The water dripped off her smooth body, thick as milk. Every day she seemed to wash off another layer of her past, and I couldn't help feeling that the day would come where I would be one of those layers. Her body was so malleable. She slipped in and out of different skins and faces. She molded her smile to fit perfectly with every audience. Her brown eyes sparkled every time she blinked. She seemed to capture a moment of our lives to be turned into a Polaroid picture or a mixtape. As we couldn't fit enough people into our small cellar anymore, the house expanded to our needs. As the large hall became our primary performance space and living room, it slowly developed into a sort of fetish palace, celebrating and probably further encouraging our character development along Leotardian ideas of turning little narratives into musical pieces as well as political provocation. As the music became more thought-provoking, received better and better reviews, it became more and more difficult for me to relate to it. I started to dress up more. Makeup helped me become bolus, but performing felt like putting on a mask, and I wasn't sure if I was trying to hide myself or pretending to be someone else. For the first time ever, I got nervous in my own home. What got me through the night was Charlotte's look of pure joy on her face. She basked in the spotlight and laughed her ugliest, most natural laughs on stage. You have the right to femininity, and it looks fabulous on you. Charlotte's pleasure became incorporated in my own body, and I felt like I started feeding off the way she looked at me when she was all dolled up, and I was all dolled up with her. We were both no strangers to drugs or of any kind, hallucinogenic, euphoric, prescribed by a psychotherapist. But this shit hit different. Charlotte got addicted to the glamour, and I got addicted to her. We started making music and living life along a singular motto. The only thing in the world that's worse than being talked about is not being talked about. So we made sure the world continued to talk about us. We wrote and produced at dizzying speed, trying to keep up with the expanding space around us, demanding to be filled with sound and meaning. And we danced like our lives depended on it. I tried to use the memories from life in the record shop as strategies against changing architecture, but I was powerless against the concrete skeleton. Houses like dreams are made of desires and fears, and everything conceals something else. The small moments and artifact that had made up our identity became enveloped by a thick, sticky goop, eternalized and immobilized in the cellar. Corpses of a life before, perfectly prepared to be forgotten. Some days I wished I could go and sink into the goop along with them. The dense, discouraged mess of our cellar got replaced with the grandeur of the main hall, and what we had lacked in space before was made up for with emptiness. The rooftop garden was a public paradise where Anderlecht collected to sip ayahuasca, eat strawberries, and bathe their feet in a pond of empty pet bottles. I went up there a lot, watching them speak profound nonsense as I composed reckless melodies for the new album. Looking down at this place, the evanescent pink of the Grand Hall, the sunbathers at midnight, the street lamps twisting against their nature to illuminate what had once been nothing but a small shop, a home. Now it was something in between heaven and Las Vegas. Something Charlotte and I had created, and I had no idea how it happened. I felt like the man who'd sold the world before realizing I'd ever owned it. The vast spaces that our house now spanned slowly crept into our relationship. We loved no less, but we learned that true love is a complete disaster. True love for music, true love for an audience, and true love for each other. Our shared love of music, perhaps the little talent and a whole lot of luck, had brought us the freedom to do whatever we wanted with our time, our home, our art. Liberty is a food easy to eat, but it's hard to digest. And the emptier life became, the hungrier we got. Charlotte spoon-fed me white sugar while I made our set list for the upcoming month. I sprayed whipped cream into her eager mouth while her fingers danced over the piano, manically trying to fill the silence left after a successful show. All we did was eat, sing, and fuck. Those are the cravings only the lonely will understand. Some days life felt so flat I could already see my tombstone in the distance. And then came our last night together. Charlotte had bought new boots and panties and was wearing only those when she came downstairs. I don't even remember what we were fighting about anymore. It's such an irrelevant matter. It started somewhere with a disagreement about how to load the dishwasher properly and ended with us accusing each other of having changed, not being the same people we had fallen in love with. It was true. We had changed. We had grown into one and the same person, and that was exactly why loving each other had become exponentially more difficult. Innocence ends when one is stripped of the delusion that one likes oneself. We had both lost the innocence, and trying to love the reflection of ourselves in the body of another person is just as difficult as loving the reflection in the mirror. Charlotte expressed her frustration by throwing strawberries at me, staining the blue walls in her dark body with the red juices. I just stood there and stared. Unity is to uniformity what a beautiful melody is to continuous sound. The monotony of life had made a uniformity out of our unity. Back when we were performing in the cellar, things had been disorganized, depressing, disgusting even, but life was a melody back then. The production of the glorified sound we were making now lived and died with the glitter. As long as it sparkled, it was entertaining, but it became invisible as soon as you turned the lights off. I missed the mess. My whole life I'd spent studying every musical masterpiece of the last 10 decades, trying to learn what exactly makes a song a classic. And it was in this moment, staring at Charlotte in all her fury, that I finally got it. A classic is a song that has never finished saying what it has to say. And I had nothing more to say, not to Charlotte, not to the piano, not to the audience. I wondered if Charlotte realized that in making our kitchen look like a murder scene, she too desperately missed the mess. I started laughing. Charlotte stopped. What are you laughing at? In truth, I was contemplating what connection really meant in this age of co-sensuality that we find ourselves. How is it that in a PC perfect world that we live in, where we measure words in milligrams and snort them in straight lines, we still find ourselves misunderstood in our most intimate expressions? The most dangerous phrase language has ever come up with must be, I love. So universally spoken and yet never meant quite in the same way. I didn't know what to say. Instead, I went to the fridge, grabbed a dozen eggs, and walked over to Charlotte. She stared at me in shock. Walked over to Charlotte. She was breathing heavily. I looked at her and slowly cracked one egg after the other over her head. At first, she stared at me in shock. Then she started laughing too. By the time I'd cracked all 12 eggs over her head, she had tears in her eyes and white slime dripping down her face. She kissed me. Without a word, she went upstairs to shower. I waited. I don't know what she wanted of me, nor do I know what I want from myself. Maybe it wasn't so much about what I wanted, but the fact that I always wanted more, that I've always demanded more from the sunset, more than even the sun itself can provide, most likely. I only noticed that Charlotte had left when milk came pouring down through the ceiling. Today, I'm wondering if she'll ever come back and if we'll write another story or to tell, or if I'm going to read about her becoming a classic on her own somewhere on Instagram. While I wait, I'm attempting to write the lyrics to this song that has started with one weird kiss and ended with another. One day I will find the right words, and they will be simple.
Let's have a satanic orgy. Deep in the forest, in the dead of night, the full moon is the only light. Round the magic circle, our bodies start to sway. All the pretty witches have come out to play. Come to the Sabbath, take a ride on my broom, and make it under the moon. under my spell. Come to the Sabbath, come to the Sabbath, come to the Sabbath with me. Let's have a satanic, let's have a satanic, let's have a satanic orgy. The rhythm's got you dripping blood and sweat. You feel your heart pounding in your chest. The flames go high to a fever pitch. You've never made love to, you made love to a witch. Come to the Sabbath, take her out on my broom. We're naked under the moon. Maybe I'll make love to you. Come to the Sabbath, go down on demons from hell. And just like that, you're under my spell. Come to the Sabbath, come to the Sabbath, come to the Sabbath with me. Let's have a satanic, let's have a satanic, let's have a satanic orgy. That's nice. Just like that. What? What's the matter? You don't like the taste of blood? Come to the Sabbath, take her out on my broom. We're naked under the moon. Maybe I'll make love to you. Come to the Sabbath, go down on demons from hell. And just like that, you're under my spell. Come to the Sabbath, take her out on my broom. Her naked under the moon. Maybe we'll make love to you. Come to the Sabbath, go down on demons from hell. Just like that, you're under my spell.
It's not the red of the dying sun, the morning sheet's surprising stain. It's not the red of which we bleed. A red of Cabernet Sauvignon, a world of ruby, all in vain. It's not that red, it's not that red. It's not that red, it's not that red. It's not as golden as Zeus' famous shower. It doesn't not at all come from above. It's in the open, but it doesn't get stolen. It's not that gold. It's not as golden as memory or the age of the same name. It's not that gold, it's not that gold. It's not that gold, it's not gold. this would be your color. I wish this would be your color. I wish this would be your color. Your color. I wish it is as black as my Malevich Square, the cold furnace in which we stare, a high pitch on the future's scale. It is a starless winter night's tale. It suits you well. It is that black, it is that black, it is that black, it is that black. I wish this would be your color. 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 Your color. I wish.
Okay, it's actually done this time.